Lucy Letby, serial killer. Why did she kill? Part 9. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, and I am continuing our examination of Lucy Letby, recently convicted of the murder of several babies and the attempted murder of more, and who was given whole life orders in relation to those numerous life sentences that she received. Letby evidently sought sympathy. Giving evidence for the first time in her 8-month trial, Letby claimed she only ever wanted to care for and help the children, as she denied harming any of the infants. Denial, potentially the first line of the twin lines of the narcissistic defense, or might it have been, of course, the denial of somebody who'd not done it? But we have to discount that because she was convicted. And therefore, issuing such a denial, when the evidence was accepted as her having killed those children, shows a different mindset. The suggestion also that she only ever wanted to care for and help the children seems more to be that of cognitive empathy than genuine emotional empathy. When asked by her barrister, Ben Myers, KC, whether she had ever intentionally killed or hurt any baby, she said, "No, that is completely against everything that being a nurse is. I'm there to help and to care, not to harm." Letby said she felt sick when she learnt of the scale of the accusations shortly after, and her world just stopped. She added, "It was sickening. I just couldn't believe it. I don't think you can be accused of anything worse than that. I was just devastated." She explained that she was still unable to sleep without medication and had been diagnosed with PTSD relating to her arrest. There's no evidence to suggest that that's a lie, and that she had been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder relating to her arrest. However, given the fact that she had killed the children, how then are we to reconcile this reaction? When she was arrested, there is video footage that you may have seen, and she looks like the air has been sucked out of her. And of course, she made noises about the fact that she got a problem, I think, with her leg because she'd had some operation. Gone is the smiley facade. Gone is the Little Miss Perfect facade. Instead, it's replaced by, "Please be careful with me. Please be gentle to me," seeking sympathy. The suggestion that she suffered post-traumatic stress disorder may either be that she has exhibited symptoms which have been generated purely for the purposes of eliciting sympathy in order to nullify threats to control and draw fuel by way of sympathy towards her. And therefore, if she's a narcissist, that has been constructed in order to nullify threats to control, allow her to control people and draw fuel, or that she actually does have some kind of traumatic response, because the actual effect of her arrest and the subsequent charges has posed such a threat to her world that she reacted with anxiety, that she reacted with a manner which was akin to post-traumatic stress disorder, because the level of threat that she faced in terms of exposing her to the world as a child killer, that facade had been smashed as a consequence of not only the allegations, but her arrest, charge, and subsequent publicity. Might it have been that moment when she was taken from her house by police officers, there was a sudden realization that the game was up, and that she really was now in significant problems, which manifested as a huge threat to control, and her response to that was either almost a genuine form of anxiety, which can happen, or a manufactured form of anxiety to elicit sympathy to try and nullify the threat to control that was posed by these allegations. She's often been spoken about as not being particularly flustered, but she certainly seemed that way when she was arrested and the behaviours there afterwards. Gone is the calmness that once manifested, and of course it's far easier to be calm when you feel in a position of power, far easier to be calm when things are going your way. But when she faces what appears to be a massive threat to control, this is the response. She explained that she was sensitive to loud noises and new people and gets startled easily. All of that would move away from the suggestion that she was a psychopath and would be more likely the behavior of a narcissist to suggest that she's doing this purely to elicit sympathy. She said, "It was just the scariest thing I've ever been through. It's not only happened once, it happened twice and then a third time. It's just traumatizing." A pity play, perhaps? Letby had been in custody for almost 2 years when her trial began in October 2022. The case was thrown into doubt on the first day when it emerged that she had moved prisons days before, leaving many of her possessions and medication behind, and had found it highly damaging and traumatizing. Again, this move of prisons may have been a threat to control, resulting in a disoriented response. Her barrister, Benjamin Myers Casey, said Letby was so shaken by the experience, she was disoriented as a result, incoherent, she can't speak properly, and it had blown away any progress she had been making psychologically. Might this be the reaction of an individual that was so shocked at the way that she was being treated that she reacted this way, or is it a manifestation of a threat to control? Is it an individual who actually has emotional empathy and is affected this way, but her emotional empathy had been kept down for whatever reason, resulting in the commission of these crimes? Or is it simply either a manufactured response to the circumstances to try and elicit sympathy and to nullify the threat to control? Or is it the fact that she did have a reaction as a consequence of experiencing such a disorienting action? The trial eventually got underway a week behind schedule after Letby was assessed by psychiatrists. In her first days in the witness box, she looked on edge. Her eyes darted nervously towards any unexpected noise, a cough, a dropped pen, or when the female prison guard beside her shuffled in her seat. She blinked rapidly. Again, gone is the cool exterior, the unflustered behaviour which might be associated with the behaviour of a psychopath, and instead, might this be the behaviour of an individual who is genuinely frightened by what she's experiencing, or is it a manufactured pity play, a result of the repeated threats to control, of finding herself in an unfamiliar environment, being questioned and accused, with the consequence that her narcissism, if she is a narcissist, manifests by creating this anxiety to compel her to seek sympathy, thus to nullify threat to control. She held her comforter and told jurors she was easily startled and easily scared as a result of her traumatizing arrests, for which she had been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. She also took medication for depression and anxiety. Might those be comorbid conditions, or again, are they simply a manifestation of her response to the repeated threats to control that she was experiencing? Interestingly, it is the case that with healthcare professionals who perpetrate violence against their patients, especially children, the offending often appears to be motivated by a pathological desire for attention and sympathy, emerging as a consequence of their involvement in the case. Might this attention be the necessity of fuel, sympathy also being a provision of fuel, and demonstrating that people are being brought under control by feeling sorry for the individual concerned? It has been discovered in other cases, and in future parts we will be looking at some of these other cases briefly to look at the comparisons to see if we can draw assistance from them in making the determination of what Letby is, but it has been found that there is a complex interaction in such circumstances, and there's a history of personality disorder diagnoses and characteristics, which were often found to be highly sadistic and narcissistic, as described by those who knew them. Letby sent text messages, which were released during her trial, which appeared to indicate her efforts to garner sympathy from her colleagues following the children's deaths. She had to be repeatedly asked to focus on other patients around the time of the death of other babies, and her passing on death notifications to family members seems to indicate a desire for her to remain personally involved in the case. Might this be Letby trying to continue to assert control and draw fuel from the responses, or is it simply the fact that she is relishing the continued involvement and witnessing the exercising of her power over people following what she had done? More insight and more evidence, and we move on to more in terms of her behaviours as we examine more of her text messages and her behaviour on Facebook. Join me in part 10.